In this special episode of EcoEye, I'm heading off to take a journey along the Western Rail Corridor, which runs all the way along the western seaboard from Limerick to Sligo. 30 years ago, I could have made this entire journey by train, but services along this route all but closed down in the 1970s. In the early part of the 20th century, Ireland had a comprehensive rail network. At its peak in the 1920s, there was about 5,500 kilometres of railway connecting all of Ireland, up to Donegal and from there into the north. By the 1950s and 60s, large swathes of route were being closed down, partly due to the rise of road transport, and this trend continued until the 1970s and beyond, to give us what we have today, a radial rail network where almost all lines lead to Dublin. However, the Western Rail Corridor is currently having a rebirth due to the Herculean efforts of individuals and local community groups all along the railway line to stop it being dismantled and finally to have it reopened. It's now government policy under Transport 21 to reopen the Western Rail Corridor in a number of phases. First Ennis to Athenry, then Athenry to Tuam, then Tuam to Claremorris, and finally Claremorris to Collooney. Linking Limerick, Galway and Sligo by rail will help to provide a sustainable solution to transport problems in the west. Services between Limerick and Ennis have been upgraded and improved, but at the moment this is far as I can go by rail, so I'm cycling for the rest of the journey, heading north to the next station, Gort, and stopping off at a small town on the railway line in County Clare.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Sure.
There.
All right.
I saw a sign down there, get Crusheen on track. Is that to do with the railway?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been campaigning to have a train stop here in Crusheen because this area has quite a lot of people in the area that need a train stop here.
And will it reduce the traffic through the village here? There's an awful lot of
Absolutely,
traffic going
Duncan. There are a lot of families in this area that are going both to Limerick and to Galway, and it's a two-way commute. You know, we would have a situation where people could afford just to have one car instead of two. In a climate that is economically tight, this would be hugely beneficial for most families at this stage. We can't overemphasise the importance of the Western Rail Corridor and a stop in Crusheen.
The traffic on Crusheen's main road, the N18, is extremely busy and it's quite dangerous for me to cycle. Further north, in and around Gort, Erin Road Erin are working on upgrading the tracks for the next stage, linking Ennis with Athenry.
Miles, when was Gort Station last in operation?
Well, the last time we ran passenger scheduled services from here would have been in 1975-76. Services ran actually from Limerick through to Athenry at the time and connected with the Galway-Dublin route, and then went on to Claremorris. And then over the years the line was used mainly for freight services. But then in recent years the line fell into disrepair, and it's only now that we're back to renewing and rebuilding the line. What the corridor does for us here is it connects the lines, for example, the Westport line to the Galway line, to the Limerick line and onto the Cork line, and it creates a corridor down the west coast.
So how many people do you expect to move on the line from Limerick to Galway?
We started a new service from Ennis to Limerick some years ago. The number estimates we had originally were far exceeded early on. In fact, we've probably up to 3 times as many people travelling on those services as we expected initially. I believe the same thing is going to happen here. And we've found over the years that when you put the service in and when it's in place, people will use it.
Is most of the work done on the line now?
Yes, indeed. We had 36 miles of track to relay, and it sounds easily done quickly, but it does take a while. We had to get all the resources down here, and most of that work is now complete. Still some work to be done on finalising the signalling, level crossings, and some of the stations are still being finalised, and it's coming on very well.
The Western Rail Corridor from Ennis to Claremorris is over 68 miles. The development cost in Transport 21 is €168 million, averaging €2.5 million per mile. actually very good value. Because the land is in public ownership, it's a fraction of the cost of railways in Europe. Athenry is a busy town 25 kilometres east of Galway and is the junction that links the Western Rail corridor to the city. Gillian Buckley is from the area, and her organisation, the Western Development Commission, supports the initiative to get the West back on track.
Gillian, why is the Western Rail corridor so important for this region?
I think the Western Rail corridor is absolutely fundamental to provide transport links, access and connectivity within our region, which covers counties Clare, Connacht and Donegal. And the Western Rail corridor actually traverses that entire region practically. So it opens up a very rural area to opportunities that weren't there previously. It allows us to compete not just nationally but also internationally, because access, movement of people and goods in a modern knowledge economy is absolutely fundamental.
How important is it to get the rail corridor all the way up to Claremorris and on to Sligo?
We passionately believe that the corridor can't be half built. It actually has to be reopened all the way. We won't realise its full benefits till it is all the way to Sligo and becomes a truly full rail corridor. And you can't have half a corridor, you can't have half a bridge. It's set out in Transport 21. We'd love to see those timelines accelerated, but I suppose to be realistic in the current economic climate, we'll be satisfied if they were adhered to and maintained, so that we have Tuam by 2011 and Claremorris by 2014.
I'm dropping in to see a local environmentalist a few kilometres out of Athenry. The narrow roads are impossible to use as a thoroughfare for cycling and walking because of the volume of trucks and cars, and I'm relieved to get into the secluded laneway that leads into Shradda's house in one piece.
Hi, Shradda.
Hi, how are you? You're welcome.
Pleased to meet you.
You too.
Hi, how are you?
You're welcome.
Grant, tell us now a little bit about the pollution issues, the environmental issues.
It's very difficult because of all the trucks that are bringing gravel back and forth from the quarry to the main road that they're building. And it's very hard on the environment. If you look at the roads, there's all the trees and the sides of the roads. It's all covered in muck. People can't go for walks. There's potholes all along the roads. Going into Athenry town, there's a very small bridge, and I don't know how long that bridge can take the weight of those trucks going in and out.
Is rail access important now for this region?
Athenry is critical train-wise because it's the only train track that's between here and Galway for a start. And if we were able to go to Ennis, and if we were able to go to Limerick, and if we were able to go on to Tuam by train, it would be fantastic for the environment. As regards, there'd be less cars on the road and a lot more people in the trains if it was a good service.